Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
Well, are we seeing the very best of Australia just at the right time of the tournament? If you're an Australian fan, they have made light work of that target of 158, and they have, you think, given themselves an extremely good chance to secure that semi-final spot. The numbers are already in. South Africa would not be looking at this result favorably. They need to now do something improbable, try and chase 160 in less than 13 overs. That sort of equation, if they are to get the points and the net run rate to make a semi-final spot. So Australia have done well. The West Indies campaign comes to a close. Bit of a celebration, an end of an era sort of party at the Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi as the Aussies came together with the West Indian team to provide a guard of honour for Chris Gale and Dwayne Bravo. We've seen now in West Indies colours for the last time. All that and the build-up to the England-South Africa game on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. Tom Moody, Steve Harmison, Daren Ganga, wonderful people that they are. Never got this sort of send-off when they finished their illustrious careers, but they never asked for it as well and never wanted it. So I will ask them to look back at Dwayne Bravo and Chris Gale's career. But before that, Tom, we're seeing the very best of Australia and the very best of David Warner, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of good signs for Australia in this game. The return to, really the vintage Warner that we've come to sort of see over many, many years in his T20 career. Back to that very decisive stroke play, a really good mixture of power, but also, that intensity between the wickets. So Australia and David Warner, for that matter, will be thrilled that that's been recaptured. It just makes them so much more potent as a side when you've got the likes of him at Finch and Finch up front that can offer that. So they'll be well and truly impressed collectively as a team going through, even though it's not guaranteed yet, but potentially going into that semi-finals phase with a lot of confidence.
And great timing as well. David Warner just ahead of the semi-finals and ahead of that big auction, which he's surely not going to go into, right, Tom? All right, I'm kidding. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, there's an internet problem here.
That's the fun part, isn't it? You can come in just when we want it. Okay, but in all seriousness, this is a dangerous-looking David Warner. Daren Ganga, a formal conclusion to what has been a disappointing campaign to the defending champions, the West Indies. Shall we look at that first, or shall we celebrate Dwayne Bravo and Chris Gale for the giants that they've been in our game in this format?
Well, I think for the West Indies, it's been more bitter than sweet, and there's a little bit of sweet because they've had some young players who have come good in this tournament. You think of Shimron Hetmyer, Nicholas Pooran, they would have done well. Akil Hussain, been given the opportunity to play in his first World Cup, would have taken this experience in good stride, and I'm sure he's going to use that for many of the other opportunities that he gets at the international level. But in terms of Chris Gale and Dwayne Bravo, two of the most decorated T20 players, they bow out of international cricket. And it's not the right platform and right occasion for them to bow out. But sadly, that's been the sort of course of action taken by Cricket West Indies and the selectors to offer these players the opportunity to play in this World Cup. There was an expectation that they will deliver and they will lead this West Indian side to defend its title. But it was not to be. I think it was a perfect storm, so to speak, for Karen Pollard. From a batting point of view, there were horrors at the top of the innings. Chris Gale batted 1, 2, 3, 4. They were searching for runs from him, but they kept playing him because they knew that it was his last hurrah, as they say, his swan song, so to speak, in his career. But I think all West Indians are very proud of what he's accomplished as a batsman, not only in T20 cricket, but across formats. And so too Dwayne Bravo, the crackerjack, effervescent all-rounder, has created a niche for himself. The most T20 wickets globally. That's a great accomplishment. And he's taught and mentored a lot of players across the globe and a lot of West Indian players. So there's a lot for West Indians to be proud of, but a disappointing end to their World Cup campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, it was a shocking campaign from that get-go. After that 60 all-out against England, it couldn't have started any worse. And a number of us had the West Indies in our top four going into this tournament, which, yes, was a hard one to predict. Now, no one's denying what Bravo and Gale have done, but the occasion does seem to almost throw a little bit of throw sour taste to the celebration. They finished second from bottom in their group. They've only just about managed points with a narrow win against Bangladesh. So this is a forgettable campaign for the West Indies, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think you can break it down in two ways for me. From an outside looking in, at the start of the tournament, I didn't on these surfaces. If you'd have been playing in England on a better surface, South Africa and Australia, you might have thought, right, the shot makers that the West Indies have got, they might stand an outside chance with the squad that they've picked. I didn't for 1 minute, and I don't be sort of pleased to say that I was right, that I didn't for 1 minute think that the West Indies had any chance in this competition on the surfaces that we're going to play on because of the IPL being played there than before. It was like, we're going to give these guys, it was like a testimonial, it was like a benefit. We're going to give them a nice benefit to set them off into the sunshine. And the players that we're talking about are greats of the game. But if I was a young West Indian, especially the ones that I didn't get into this side, and I'm looking at not a young West Indian as in Jason Holder, but I'm looking at a young West Indian player thinking, right, I didn't get picked because these wanted to give me a benefit. Well, what future is West Indian cricket for me? I'd be concerned if I was a young player what my pathway through is to the national team if I'm watching what I've just watched from a global event. And I feel awful saying that, but the West Indies looked the shambles from the minute they stepped out onto the international stage in this tournament against England. And the minute they got bowled out for not very many, they never really recovered. And that sours a little bit of the big hurrah and big goodbye for Chris Gayle and Daren Bravo, two of the greats of 2020 game, that they've gone out with a little bit of a whimper in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, are we all sounding? I'm in total agreement with what we've expressed on this. And are we sounding a bit like grumpy old men, or is there a point here? Just if you were coach of that team and you're watching perhaps one of the worst campaigns you've had as defending champions, and the way it's sent off, it almost was like the West Indies won the championship. Or should we all lighten up a little and appreciate that the Windies take things differently? They dance, they have fun. It doesn't matter if they win or lose.
Yeah, look, no, I think there's a balance to the whole thing. Yes, there is a special thing around the Caribbean and the spirit of the Caribbean and the way the game is played, which is something we all, we all respect and all love and being engaged with. At the end of the day, whether it's a home series, away series, or whether it's an ICC event, you go in there to win the competition and win the tournament. And I just felt that not enough hard decisions were made during the campaign to get their team right and get them sailed to have an impact in this tournament. You could argue that maybe they didn't make the tough decisions before the tournament to get the 15 selected World Cup members absolutely spot on. But they chose who they chose, and once they chose them, they needed to make some hard decisions during that tournament. If the performances weren't there, at the end of the day, you've got to back form, and you've got to try to find a combination that's going to have some sort of impact in a tournament.
Yep, fair enough. Now, we've done an exhaustive review and analysis of the West Indies campaign. We did it with Maila Jayawardene and Daren Ganga after the Sri Lanka game. We've done it with Tom and Daren in the pre-show today. So get there if you'd like to go there. But the one question I do want to ask Daren Ganga is actually about Kieron Pollard and the leadership here. Daren, you've already said whether Pollard was conservative in his approach and his selections and his decision-making. We know he's a gifted captain, almost a natural sort of leader. But is he the right man for the West Indies to keep faith in? The combination of him and Phil Simmons with another World Cup in a year's time?
Indeed, I think with the resources that is available in the Caribbean, Kieron Pollard, to me, continues to be the number one choice. There's still a lot of learning and mentoring that has to happen with his vice captain and that of Nicholas Pooran. Shimron Hetmyer is another one who's been touted for leadership positions in West Indian cricket. I felt that Pollard maybe succumbed a bit to peer pressure. The likes of Chris Gayle, Dwayne Bravo, and Andre Russell, players that he shares a great relationship with. And sometimes, as a captain, Tom alluded to it, you've got to put your foot down and draw the line between your personal relationship and strong cricketing rationale and what's required for a team. I just felt for this particular campaign, this World Cup, he's just blurred that line a bit, and he should have been a little more forceful in terms of making decisions while it unfolds in the UAE and during this tournament. Yes, I mean, we can debate Chris Gayle being included in this 15-man squad from the onset, but the minute when he was included in this side, it required strong leadership to say, hey, after 2 or 3 matches, if they're not getting the production of runs from Chris Gayle, then he should not be playing. Another viable option should be chosen with the hope of bringing better returns. That did not happen. It was as if they were predetermined in their way in which they were going to go about playing this tournament. And no matter what came from the bats of Chris Gayle or the hands of Dwayne Bravo, these two players were going to play all 5 matches. And to me, you can't play T20 cricket like that. You can't win a World Cup playing like that. This game has become so analytical. You've got to factor in and weigh in the conditions, the opposition teams, the matchups, the available information, and then make an informed decision. And I don't think that the West Indies got it right and factored all those elements in their decision making.
Tom, just last word on the West Indies here. And you think the retirements of Bravo and Gale does fall out a bit of a favour if he is the man to continue leading them? Perhaps there's room now for Jason Holder to slot into that 11 and an opening for a Brandon King or any other batter to claim. This may help the West Indies going forward now?
Yeah, I think it was inevitable anyway that we're going to see some retirements out of that great West Indian era. And yeah, of course, it's going to do a favour for Pollard, because Pollard's clearly still the right man for the job. He's still a tremendous player, and I also rate him very highly as a strategic leader. And his leadership is going to be key to bring through, which I think is ready cricketers. You know, there's Shafane Rutherford as well that's not in that squad. You mentioned Brandon King. You know, we haven't seen O'Shane or Thomas, you know, as much as what we, possibly should have done as an impact pace bowler. You know, so there's a lot to like about West Indies moving forward, and I think Pollard is your man to be able to lead that. And with the retirements, it opens the door up for these guys to get the opportunities they deserve.
All right, let's leave it there then and focus on England against South Africa. Steve's wondering why we're going on and on about teams that are out of the tournament when the prospective champions, it's coming home and all of that is about to start ringing and singing in the United Kingdom. So England v South Africa, toss has gone Owen Morgan's way. My word is a master of the toss. England are going to have a bowl first, which puts South Africa in a precarious position of having to dismiss England for about 100 and chase that down in quick time. Highly unlikely, Steve. I was curious though to see if they make changes, they rest and rotate a little bit. The only change is the forced one, Mark Wood for Timil Mills. So tells us something about how seriously England are taking this game.
No, absolutely. I didn't think there'd be any changes other than the enforced one. I thought, if anything, England might have had a look at if they were going to experiment on anything, possibly keeping the left arm option, bringing David Willey in, leaving David Milan out and moving up one, because last year Liam Livingstone didn't get a bat. Moeen Ali has batted very little in this tournament. So that could have been something that England might have experimented on. But personnel-wise, we know what Owen Morgan's like. Along with Chris Silverwood, they'd want a settled unit. They've got their game plans. There's a lot talking in 2020 about matchups. And I think extreme pace, swap for extreme paces, is what the doctor ordered for England. He got 4 wickets in the last warm-up game before he started feeling his ankle. I had a few text messages with him late last night, and he said he's feeling fine. He's ready for the game, and he wants to sort of try and put himself in a position to win the World T20. So that sounds great for England. And England look as though they're a well-oiled machine. Won another good toss, and it'll be very, very difficult for South Africa, who I think they've climbed a huge mountain to get to the semi-finals. Now the toss hasn't gone their way.
You think this is just going to deflate South Africa a little, Tom? I'll just rephrase that equation, which I think I might have made a mistake in. Now that South Africa are batting first, they need something like a 60-odd run win if they are to try and keep their net run rate hopes high. I think it's a bit more, but the live ball-by-ball commentary will have you covered on that with our statsmen. But you think that result, knowing it, would just deflate the South Africans a bit, Tom?
Yeah, look, it wouldn't have been a welcome decision at the toss, but at the end of the day, South Africa, like a number of other teams that we thought may have been in and around close to semi-final chances. They've made their bed early in the early parts of the tournament, and there's no point sort of looking for those inches right at the finish line when you should have prepared yourself, or not prepared yourself, but played a lot better or more consistently through the tournament. So it was always going to be a tough task against England. They're a very fine team. They seem to understand exactly how they need to be playing this format of the game, and they're playing it with great freedom and confidence, and they're brilliantly led.
You think Mark Wood is the way to go, Tom? Just off what Steve's comments came. This is the best.
Yeah, absolutely right decision. And I think if he was fit at the beginning, he would have played in front of Mills. He's the one that's got the experience. He's got genuine pace up around that 150 mark. And I sense, not that I have been involved at all with that England team or in their dressing room, but I sense that he is a very positive player in that environment. I think he's a welcome, popular player, and I think he just adds an extra sort of buzz to their team, which if they need any more, but they've got it with him playing because he's such a popular member in that England setup.
Yep, absolutely. Now, we spoke a lot about England, Daren, a little earlier, about when we were discussing and breaking down the West Indies batting troubles, and we spoke about England have almost shown the way. They've set the template. We'll bring up some numbers for England, which perhaps will allow us to have a nice conversation on how teams should have come to this World Cup, or how they should have been ready to bat in this World Cup. And for starters, let's look at England in this T20 World Cup. And the one thing that we are noticing is that this is the only team to score at over 8 and over in every phase of this tournament. Otherwise, we've seen teams really struggle at the top. At times, the middle overs comes and catches up with them. But England have been very good, at least getting that 8 over pass. So 160 is almost always an option when England bat. What's been different about them, Daren? Has it been personnel? Has it been just one or two players in exceptional form like Josh Butler? Because they seem to really have shown the way in this World Cup.
Yeah, we've often spoken about that spectrum that is available to us in terms of the template for T20 batting. We mentioned the West Indies being very good boundary hitters and power players, and they stay on one end of the spectrum. A team like South Africa, they lack a bit of boundary hitting skills and ability, and they're on the other side. But I think England is right at the pulse of where you want to be as a batting unit in T20 cricket. They've got the right balance, the right mix. And that has a lot to do with the clarity of thought that exists in this England batting team. They've got the intelligence as well to assess situations. You saw Josh Butler, when England was in a bit of trouble, losing 3 wickets quite early, how he was able to assess and then had the quality to accelerate at the end. So you can't teach that overnight. It's something that has to be ingrained in a player to understand the situation and to set totals which are going to be match-winning totals for your team. England has got it right from a batting point of view, and their bowlers as well, with Mark Wood and his piece, with Adil Rashid and an in-form Moeen Ali. They've got the best of everything. I mean, it will be very difficult to beat this England side in this World Cup.
Did they come to this World Cup, Steve, better prepared than other teams, or does that look better because of how results have gone your way? I thought Moeen Ali would be given a lot more responsibility with bat. That hasn't quite happened, not like he's been needed to, but it just looks so good. Now, is that just some sort of tactical genius, or is that made to look better because of the results?
No, I think England have got quite a good game plan. They're well led. This is a huge point, I think, for me, is how leadership is underestimated, I think, in T20 cricket. I think leadership is huge, and the clarity that Owen Morgan gives off and the positivity that not only he gives off in decision making, that transfers to his players. I think in this tournament so far, the graphic that we've just seen, Tom knows Jason because he's had him at the Sunrisers. Jason Roy is brilliant for this cricket team in T20 cricket, because very rarely, even if Jason Roy gets out in the first 3 overs, he'll get more runs than balls faced. Always does. He hits boundaries, he goes hard early, and I think that buys a little bit of time for the likes of Joss, for Milan, and people that come in behind. And if Jason comes off, which he has a couple of times in this tournament, and it does buys Butler a little bit more time, like we've seen in the last, especially in the last game when he got 100. His first 50 came off 40 odd balls, and the next one came and a crack after that. So there's just, like Daren mentioned, England have got a clarity of thought and they've got a game plan that works. And the most important thing, I think, from an England point of view, is they're very flexible. They've got players that can fit in whatever situation and be comfortable because they're experienced. They're comfortable at not panicking and deliver their skill sets at that time when it's needed. So if somebody needs to go in and put a fire out, like Owen Morgan needed to the other day, he knows he's got Josh Butler at the other end. They know, because they're experienced characters, that they can bat for 6-7 overs. Not a problem, because they can catch it up and then go beyond at the end as long as they don't lose wickets. Yeah, they've got this aura and X factor. During my time, I played against the great Australian side in Test match cricket. And the reason why they were the best is because 3.5 days you could stay with them, and then your skill sets dropped because of tiredness or anything like that from a mental point of view, and that's when they became the best of what they were. This team is like that for me. This England team is like that. They put you under so much pressure, and then at the back end, when teams crack, that's when England that's why they're the greatest. They're the great side. They are.
That's a very interesting point Steve makes, Tom, about the mental side of things. And we're all trying to figure out in my part of the world, what's gone wrong with this strong Indian team. And there are enough theories about whether mental fatigue or just bubble fatigue, etc., has gotten to them. You've been with a number of these English players. They seem to really look after their mental well-being. Breaks for a lot of players. Butler didn't play the IPL. On the other hand, it looked like some time for Jason Roy in these conditions did him a world of good. Have they found just the right balance of rest and yet preparation going into this World Cup better than other teams, perhaps?
Yeah, possibly. I think also England are in a unique position where they've got probably more depth, more depth than most teams in all formats. Well, not in all formats, but in all white ball formats, 50 over and T20. We saw during their summer, they nearly played a second, if not a third, team in some of their 50 over series. And what they've done over recent years is build this incredible depth, which has given them the flexibility to be able to rest your Butler, rest your Bairstow, or rotate this bowler or that bowler, and provide a great bench strength of experience and players that are ready to go. And in doing so, they're looking after not only expanding the depth of their skills, but they're also looking after their mental fatigue, if I could put it that way, of a lot of their players, because they've got that depth of strength. I think that there's two sides to the mental game. The side that Steve was talking about is more to do with the match mental toughness against the holistic mental toughness. So they're two different things in my view. The in-game match stuff is a different challenge for players. Some players rise to it and love the challenge of that of being challenged, both physically, tactically, but more importantly, the topic we're talking about, mentally, and others really struggle, and that goes with not only individuals, that goes with teams.
Daren, anything to extend on that? Does this England team strike you as one of those great teams where the opposition feels that sort of intimidation, that this is a team that looks like they're just not going to lose?
Indeed, and I think they're more adaptable as well. And what we've been alluding to is that factor of England players being available for Test series, and some are being specialist white ball cricketers. Just remember, this England team doesn't have a Jofra Archer, doesn't have a Ben Stokes, two players who can walk into any T20 team globally. So that again reinforces the point that Tom is making with regard to depth, with regard to resources available. And you must give credit to the think tank who has got it right in terms of getting players who are in form. Out of all the formats of the game, I think the form of players has to be taken in high priority when you're looking at players for T20 cricket. Yes, a player could come with a lot of reputation, a player could come with past performances, but current form to me is very important for a T20 team being successful. And this England side, you look at the players, many of these players are in form, and we're seeing that being presented on the field of play. And that leadership that Hampson spoke about from Owen Morgan, he understands these players. They have the utmost respect for him as a leader. I was a little bit worried about his form which was shown at the back end of the IPL, but he's gone past that and he is now leading from the front as well. And it's always good to have a captain that is performing over and beyond his role as a leader. And England has got a perfect setup at this point in time.
Red hot in form, en route to top spot in this group in the semi-final. No team has ever won the T20 World Cup unbeaten, so that's something you should work on. But Steve Armisen, we've been guilty of not discussing the other team in all of this, so let's have a quick comment on South Africa. Fair to say their batting has been what's let them down more. They look like a feisty bowling unit with Nokia and Rabada and even the rest of them, Shamshi, coming to the party. What do we expect from South Africa from their last outing, even though it looks like the numbers are against them?
Yeah, they're looking for their captain to lead. His leadership qualities have been very good in Bavuma. Quentin de Kock, you'd say the Yozi's team a score. If he gets a score, this kid is dangerous. I think Quentin de Kock's a fantastic player. Their batting unit is probably the weaker of the two disciplines. But if they put a score on the board and that's pressure in 150, 160, they've got a bowling unit that can win cricket matches. Who wouldn't want Rabada, Nokia in their side? Shamsi is one of the high. He's in the top three, I think. 2020 bowlers in the world. So they've got a dangerous bowling unit. They've got 3 or 4 good batsmen, 3 or 4 good bowlers. Can they put it together as a team against England, who are the best team in the world? Time will tell.
Big game for someone like Quentin de Kock, Tom, who's at a quiet tournament, who's at a quiet IPL, or does it not make a difference? He's still going to be hot property no matter how this World Cup ends.
Yeah, look, he's always going to be hot property because he's world class. But yeah, a big game from his own personal point of view because he has had a disappointing time of it. And it's also nice for a senior player, which he is one of, to be able to have an impact to help his side win a game, even though that we know that the equation for them to win is going to be quite challenging, but still a match-winning performance from him won't go astray.
All right. If they are to get 180, maybe 200, they've got to have Quentin de Kock firing, you'd think. So that's their best chance if they are to trouble England. Let's pick up the chat at halftime. This is where I say thank you very much to Daren Ganga. It's been an absolute pleasure, Daren, having you through the course of this World Cup. I'd actually listed you down for the semi-finals and final, but I'll have to scratch that off. Sorry about that, Daren.
I'll transfer it to Tom and Steve.
Yeah. Tom's around, Steve too. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Daren. Always a pleasure. We'll have more from Daren Ganga on our network, I'm sure, pretty soon. Tom Moody and Steve Armisen will join us at halftime for this England v South Africa game. So join us then on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.